Welcome to the program. The country's leaders are locked in discussions over the best way to fund hospitals and schools into the future. The Prime Minister wants to allow states and territories to collect income tax to pay for those services. But there's resistance to the idea of giving the states total responsibility for public schools. Here's our political reporter Julie Doyle.
Morning, everyone.
Hello.
The traditional start to a COAG meeting where state and territory leaders take up their positions.
Got you penned in.
I'm here to protect Tasmania's interests, and I put that first and foremost, and that needs to be well understood. If you're serious about reform, don't drop a thought bubble, half-baked plan that you can't even answer simple questions about a day before the meeting.
2 years ago we saw some cuts that were brought down, billions of dollars taken away from our hospitals, from our schools, services that are so critical to our communities, and today is about restoring that.
Welcome to Canberra and welcome to this COAG.
Malcolm Turnbull will use this meeting to push his plan to allow the states to collect income tax to pay for hospitals and schools in the long term.
So we're not here to make promises which we cannot afford. What we're talking about, as we all know, is a very real world of constrained resources.
We all love each other, it's fine.
He can count on the support of WA's Colin Barnett.
Dividing responsibility for state schools and Catholic and independent schools makes sense, and after all, the states already fund 90% of state schools. It's not a big deal.
Where are you going?
The Northern Territory's Chief Minister is also open to discussion. But as for the others,
I am absolutely horrified, and it is simply unacceptable to have a divide, which is what the Prime Minister is talking about, between different schools in our country.
the suggestion from the Prime Minister that the Commonwealth could pull out of funding for public schools, leaving it to the states instead, has prompted some of the most intense discussion. And it's given the federal opposition a clear focus leading into this election campaign.
Mr Turnbull has come up with the most outlandish idea in the history of Australian school education. The parents of Australia will not fall for this.
It is, of course, critically important to make sure that parents do appreciate. Nobody is suggesting that the Commonwealth withdraw funding support for schools unless the states get an increased revenue stream.
No final agreements are expected today, meaning this funding debate will run all the way to the next election. Julie Doyle, ABC News, Canberra.